Look, 100 years after 100 years, they done lied to us about this and that. Told us all we from Africa and made fiction characters turn into facts. Harriet Tubman, then it was not. Knowing goddamn well that trick was capped. My wife and I wrote a book about it, and it's book with knowledge, evidence, and fact. My other book got them haters shook, cause it's helping my people take a closer look at their backgrounds in the background, showing my people where they supposed to look, showing my people where to get it from, where to hit it from, all sorts of angles. When it comes to this research, you must please first, don't trust strangers. Find out all on your own is what I highly recommend and suggest. And if you looking for uncensored content by me, I highly recommend you the best, which is my website at the link you see just across the screen. Don't let it miss you. I make it simple. I double down on that black and white. It's too official. OCO, everyone. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Tanisha Calloway.
OCO.
And in today's video, it's going to be a lot different. We're going to give a special review on a particular movie that was just recently released to the public called American Refugee. The plot goes, it says, when an American economy is in collapse, a family is seeking shelter in their neighbor's bunker, where the danger inside is greater than outside. So we're going to be talking about some things that happen inside of this movie. If you have not seen it yet, you could go ahead and stop this and come back to it after you've seen it. Or if not, I mean, of course, you're going to be learning about it based off the things that we're going to be pointing out, because of course, all of that movie is copywritten. So I won't be able to play entire aspects of it, but just maybe certain clips so you could get a feel for where we're coming from. But yeah, I mean, during the beginning part of the movie, the news was indicating, as far as their movie is concerned, the news reporters on the televisions and radio stations were indicating that something was going on, something horrific was going on within that area, driving everybody, all of the population in a panic and in a frenzy. Everybody was rushing to go to the grocery stores and all the other retail stores to go hurry up and buy up everything. And most people were in panic mode or frantic mode, as I would like to say, because things got out of hand after a certain period of time of more and more whatever this big thing happening was coming. Okay, they kind of sort of didn't. And that's another thing, hon. They really didn't allude to what was taking place. They was just displaying that the economy was collapsing and something was driving people crazy. Go ahead, babe.
I think that what they were trying to get people to think about is something happening with the money, the stocks, the jobs. School was closing. Like you said, the stores were empty. People were buying things out, but people were acting as if something was being taken away from them. And of course, as a result, everyone had to do something as far as go into some type of, like they had to protect themselves or their family.
And that's the thing, they had to do some things to protect their family. People were fighting against each other to the point where they were killing each other in the streets. And I mean, just randomly happening, kind of similar to, some of those movies like The Purge and stuff like that, where everything just goes in haywire and then it's a free-for-all, every man for themselves.
Now, when I saw this movie, two things came into my mind, because it seemed to be showing perspectives of the past, possibly perspectives of the present at certain times. It was almost trying to give way to a future prediction because of some things that's not necessarily happening. But I noticed that the way that it was presented, because even though all of this disorder was going on around all of them, in the opening scene, it actually showed the communication. Well, I don't want to jump too far into it right now, because I don't know if you wanted to go right into the opening of it, or
we could go right into the opening of it.
Well, okay. So originally, by looking at this, before I even talk about the movie, I wanted to mention something as far as the name, because I was put off a little bit as far as whether I will want to watch this movie or not, based on what I was thinking about the name, the plot. It just didn't interest me. I wanted to just get a definition for refugee. And I thought that that was important because it really does go into the plot of the movie and a lot of things that's happening in the movie. The etymology of refugee is one who flees to a refuge or shelter or place of safety. One who in times of persecution or political disorder flees to a foreign country for safety. And so with them having these two families side by side, and they already stated the plot, which was one family is going to go to another family home, that can be a foreign country. You know, it can seem like that, but it's not necessarily a foreign country. So that's what brought my mind to, are they referencing things from the past also? Or it just was a mix of a lot of things happening within this movie. But I thought it was important to note that refugee is a French word, and the English word meant one seeking asylum. Okay. And that was until 1914. It then evolved into meaning one fleeing home.
Immigrants.
I thought that was important because you just discussed that as far as asylum.
Yeah.
And how immigration can take place. And if you use that key word, then you get a pass. Or
key phrase, rather, I'm here seeking asylum. They'll give them a pass. Yeah, if you say, I just went over that in a previous, during the live stream, actually, and I went over that in the documentary. If you came here, and I'm indicating the United States, if you came here during a particular, even till now, stating that you're here seeking asylum, okay, and you're illegally here, but you're stating that you're here seeking asylum, I want you guys to understand this. You get a free ride. You are exempt from general immigration rules.
And so that made me think, because I know they did immigration reform around this time frame. So probably before then, they were calling these people refugees, if that was the case, as they were immigrating. Okay. And with them changing the meaning, bringing this meaning being seeking asylum until 1914, what came to my mind was The Birth of a Nation. They came out in 1915. Okay. And this movie,
the original one, not the one on that Turner. The one about Ku Klux Klan that was played in the White House.
Exactly. And this made me think a lot about that movie because it had that feel. It showed different things. It showed things in relation to the same way that movie sort of played out. Now, when this movie began, American Refugee, the question is, who is the American refugee in this movie? Is it white people? Is it people of color?
Now, let me explain what she means by that, because in this movie, there are two families. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go too far into it so you could, at least have some gist of what this is about to be. I don't want to go too far into it without you seeing it, but there are two families. There's a so-called Caucasian family and a so-called colored family that are involved here. But go ahead, hon. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want them to know that that's what they're showing you inside of this movie.
So is the American refugee, does it deal with those two things? Which family it is relating to that? Or is it relating to rich people and poor people?
And another thing is, I meant to add that the white family would be considered the trailer park trash. That's what they're displaying in the movie because they resided in a trailer. And the so-called black family lived in a big house. Actually, they just moved into that house too. Big house, beautiful home. You could tell they had money.
It was confusion there when it began because I'm looking at the name of the movie and I'm saying to myself, is this movie about status or is this movie about race? The movie starts by discussing the pecking order and the relation that it has with chickens being described as social animals. And I thought that was odd because a pecking order is usually observed among hens. So if they're using the word chicken when they discuss this in the opening, it's purposely stated this way and probably being used as an allegory. And if so, if this is the case, then who are the chickens? Did you think about that, hon?
I did think about that, and I'm still right now puzzled as to who it could be based off of what took place inside of the movie eventually. Like, I mean, as far as, once the movie played out and we saw the ending, in which I'm not trying to give away, but I'm still puzzled by that. What do you think?
Okay, because at that point I looked up the word chicken. And of course, a chicken is, people know it's an animal, but it's also represented as a coward. The definition states it can also be a young woman. It also states it as being any of various contests in which the participants risk personal safety in order to see which one will give up first. And in this case, you have two families that are risking their own personal safety. Okay. And for the sake of personal safety, they're participating in something that they're not really used to.
Which makes it even more difficult to point at who the chicken will be considered.
Exactly. Is it the family that is living in the bunker? Or is it the family of color that's fleeing to this person's farm? And so this is a horror movie.
That's right.
Yeah, I had to question within myself and say, what makes this a horror movie? Did you find anything horrifying about the movie?
No, I mean, besides the suspenseful music, I mean, that's the only thing that I can, consider horrifying. Now, terrifying, horror, I don't see. I mean, unless they're talking about what's horror about this is that it can or it is reality.
Okay, yeah, I can see, people being afraid of a financial collapse, of course. Also, people having to move from someplace that's familiar to a place that's unfamiliar. That can be horrible in real life, But it's not something that I would go to sleep and be afraid of after watching this movie. So it was kind of,
it's not
that
like
made me think further into it.
Yeah, it's not like Jason or something like that, like something you would consider horror, like mainly serial killer movies and stuff like that. But yeah, this is labeled as a horror film.
So it made me think of Birth of a Nation, the movie that was created in 1915, because I'm not sure what that movie was being labeled as, but I know that it had an effect on its viewers.
They considered it a documentary. And this is the reason why it was played at the White House, to encourage another transition of a new reconstruction or new reform based off of how they wanted to elevate white supremacy to the top by telling others that are, of Caucasian descent or whatever you want to call it, to magnify their fear of what could happen, what could take place with their families living so poor and they're not having any outreach to any resources that could help them. They reached out to the government out of everything. All of those groups that were being, brought here by way of a boat were reaching out to the government to say, hey, let's all band together as a group and scare those that are scaring us by aligning ourselves with those that want to see us superior, to the point where it doesn't matter their skin complexion. If they felt as though somebody of pale skin was against an alliance of all people of pale skin, they would get rid of them as well. Like, that documentary elevated or motivated, that's the word I'm looking for. They motivated more of people of Caucasian descent to look at it like, hey, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for an alliance. They would consider it like a freedom fighter alliance where they can have power and supremacy overall.
So I'm seeing that with it being an issue, if things fell out of order, them not having anyone. You see what I'm saying? If they're relying on the government and then the government is now not their people or not for them, then they wouldn't have anything.
Right. And they will be left dry. They will be left to die. So would it be horrifying for the Caucasian family? Is that what the horror is? You know what? This entire movie is probably directed at them.
And that's the reason why I said that it gave me that feel, because it was highlighting certain things that could be a red flag or a warning signal for people that may come into, like you stated, it was showing things that was happening, appearing to be happening, or could be in the future to come. Mm-hmm. So if we know that it seems like a collapse is coming in the future, possibly. This is what could happen. And then this is what else may happen if you allow it to, okay? As far as what happened in this movie, because we know that right now, things are kind of shaky as far as the economy, it seems, but there hasn't been a total collapse. So that's not present day. That's just a prediction of what's possible, okay? And so when you show that in this movie and you show these two families and you show the characteristics of each family, it's like, be on the lookout for that.
Preparation. That's what they're doing. So the American refugee will be them.
Well, the way that it's being discussed, though, our younger generations that don't know that they didn't come off a boat from Africa, the American refugee could be them.
Right. See, and this is the reason why it could be confusing for those that have no idea about their original history. Wow, which makes things even deeper. Because just because they see the Niji in this movie being shown as the strongest, okay, of both families, they still have no idea what the American refugee is in that sense, based off of what they were indoctrinated with in school. Yeah, this is deep.
Now, I also thought that the characters in the movie reveal how many Americans may think about each particular person that they portrayed within the movie, because they did show a wealthy family of color, but the thing that got me was they have to be at odds. Now, it's very rare that you're going to see in a movie a wealthy family of color, but if they show you one, then the husband has to be cheating or the wife has to be upset for whatever reason, and there has to be division.
Yeah, that's usually the typical thing. And yeah, that's displayed in this movie.
Stereotype.
Yeah, that's the stereotype. And it's displayed throughout this entire movie.
It also showed the Niji husband, how he related softly to the Caucasian woman. And it seemed like that they could relate. And it also showed how vice versa, the Caucasian male, the husband, could possibly try to relate with the Niji wife.
Meaning
almost as if trying to
romantically
integrate them.
Yeah.
Almost trying to integrate them.
That wasn't there.
It showed that there was something wrong with the boy, the son, okay? Although he was intelligent, that's the stereotype of most males, most young Niji males. Could he have autism? Could he be having some type of effects from what happened with his mom?
Yeah, and then he also said that he was adopted, don't forget. Yeah. The father not being there. Wow. Yep.
You also
so that would the father, the Niji father that was there, that would be considered his stepfather at that point. Yeah.
You had the Niji female that was overweight, and that's how they see all women of color. You had on the other side the Caucasian son. He's ready for war at an early age.
Yeah, he was definitely less than, I would say he was no more than 16.
Yeah. So he's fully prepared and ready already. Whereas on the other side, it wasn't so.
That's right.
So that's the stereotype, or that's what coming into preparation. Now you also had, this could possibly be a stereotype, but you had the Caucasian male and the woman that he was with, he has a younger woman. Okay. So he's bringing in another generation with that person. And that's what was important. It was like the next generation coming for the Caucasians. That was of the most importance. And with what has been happening and what you have stated as far as a lot of people in that race, they've been reporting that their numbers are low. Of course, they're going to want to show and state, hey, this is important. We need this next generation to come in.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I know where you're getting at, because the young Caucasian woman was not able to feed the newborn. So that's when the Niji woman had to step in.
Exactly.
In order to breastfeed the Caucasian baby.
Before that happened, she was having complications with birth.
That too.
Possible complications. So the needy woman had to step
I'm
in.
Glad you brought that up. That's true. They were showing that they were having issues with reproducing.
And so I thought that that was odd also, because how it started, when there's all this confusion, the needy woman, she decides she's just going to be kind and generous to her and help her before she helped herself. She came to the store to get items for her family, for her own family. And I didn't see her pick up anything for her own family.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Once she saw that this woman was in disarray, she said, let me stop everything I'm doing and go help her. Think about it. That's a message.
That's a big message. Yeah, and you'll see all of this inside of the movie. Everything that we're stating, you'll be able to pinpoint it. Now you'll be able to look at the movie with an open mind, knowing that there was multiple messages in there, in which we're pointing out right now.
Now, it's okay to be kind to strangers and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. But it just so happened that these two people were neighbors. So this first interaction was important so that the story can come along. So I'm going to bring it back once again to the birth of a nation, because in this movie, you have civil war going on. You have two different perspectives from two different families, one on the north, one on the south. Now, in this movie, this American refugee, there's a alleged civil war going on. And now it's showing two different perspectives because it shows something happening on both sides. And there's a fence going in between the property of these two families, a barbed wire electrical fence.
That's right.
You see, they're side by side, two different families, two different points of view, but it's a lot of symbolism, okay? They have to come together. Now, they showed a particular part. I don't want to give out too much of the movie, but in the beginning, when something went across the line, they weren't able to get it. Now, if you think back to Civil War times, when a person's property went across a particular line, you were no longer able to get it.
And here's another thing. In the past, we were living segregated.
So what's happening in this movie, it's meant for a bigger message, but the message is going to play out all the way to the end as far as what they want to happen or what they see happening or what they don't want to happen.
Right. It could be looked both ways. Yeah.
Now, there were some things that was happening with the two families living with each other where there were disagreements. They didn't all the way agree on religion, but it was being forced.
That's true.
They didn't,
and it was being forced from the Caucasian side, by the way.
Certain things that the both needy husband and the Caucasian husband, both of them were against certain things and were for certain things. And that was shown being problematic for both sides.
Yeah.
So if you're watching it from the point of view of either side, you can see how that will be a problem. If this person did that, that's a problem. The other person did something, that's a problem. It meant to rile up emotion.
Yep.
On both sides, especially when it came to one man targeting another man's wife.
And see, guys, that was it was in a consensual way too. It got heated. It actually
seemed consensual. It seemed, but see, one person was doing something that they felt that they had to for the sake of their family. That was the woman, the needy woman. And if we can think about what was taught to us in the past, it was stated that something like that had occurred.
Yeah, they were stating that how the Caucasian male was always raping our women.
Now, it didn't show that this moved to that point, but it got very uncomfortable.
It did get uncomfortable.
Watching this particular part where one side thought that it was okay, that they were able to even cross that boundary without any repercussions. And then the other side basically trying to keep peace and order and say, hold on, wait, it's not okay. I'm going to reunite with my husband. Okay. I'm not saying too much, but
yeah.
If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about.
Not to cut you off, hon, but it got to the point where my wife and I, we were holding each other's hands on the couch. And we stated out loud, that won't ever happen between us. Okay? They would, yeah. I mean, a lot of it actually, we were upset. It did drive some emotions. And of course, that was purposely done.
As it began to get near its end, there was a part where the Niji man, the Niji husband, was being portrayed as a coward. And I think that when you talk about chickens, that's what came to my mind. That came back to my mind because it's saying, okay, is he being called a chicken? Is he being called a coward? And where does the Niji husband or the Niji man, where is he in the pecking order? Even in today's society, how is it being looked at?
Yeah, and it did upset me. I didn't like how it was being displayed.
Also with the Caucasian man, he was stating that I'm all that you need. I can take care of you. I can make sure that you're okay. So he assumed that he was at the top of the order. And basically how it ended was the Niji woman was at the top of the pecking order because of what she had to do to ensure peace, okay, and ensure that there was safety for her family. Of course, she was showing compassion for the Caucasian family as well. And historically, that is what has been represented for the Niji.
Yeah, we
have shown compassion.
We can even show pictures, and I'll probably put some up right now as we speak, where you will find the Niji woman nursing Caucasian babies. And that's not done out of force.
That's compassion. That's showing compassion. All the things that have been done all of this time is compassion. It's not cowardice or being a chicken or things of that nature. But so she ends up injuring the Caucasian man to save her husband. And I saw where the injury is. The injury was on the eye and on the hand.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that was symbolism. And that represented an eye for an eye. But it also represented there will be no more business deals being done here. Because the hand is injured and can't shake. You can't shake hands.
With the hand being injured was an indicator of don't bite the hand that fed you.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
He bit the hand that fed him, which was the Niji woman. Because if it wasn't for her, their baby would have died. Their family probably wouldn't survive.
And the symbolism was also within all of that happened during that same time frame was the Niji woman had to show force in a certain way towards the family order of the Caucasian family. And that shows where the importance is, once again, which is in the child, in the new coming child for the Caucasian family. I thought what was very significant is what happened at the end, because at the end, it showed after all of the commotion settled down and everything, you would have thought that after what the Niji woman went through with her family and her husband and all of this, that she would have killed this Caucasian man, but she didn't. It showed that they had now become one family unit. In his injury, he was spared. There was compassion. They became one family unit. You have her husband. They put all that to the side also, walking up behind her, Caucasian man walking up behind her, and the children just playing and enjoying themselves and acting as things are normal as a new group of people come to the gate. Keyword, come to the gate, because now here we go, new people coming in. I'm going to accept you. The Niji woman opens the gate and accepted them in now to become a part of the family. I thought there was a huge amount of symbolism in that.
What do you think that represented with her opening up that gate to their farm?
I think that it shows a marriage, just as I'm going to bring it back once again to the birth of a nation, because as that movie ended, you have the two main couples in that movie, they get married. Okay. So at the end of this movie, you have the two families, they're now married, and you have another family coming in. They're going to be married basically into the family because they're going to be merged into the family. And you have the birth of a nation.
A birth of a nation.
You have a birth of a new nation. Now, the question that came to me after watching this movie is this an accepted outcome? Would this be an accepted outcome, what was seen in this movie? Or is this a warning to those who watch it? Just as the birth of a nation riled up fears within Caucasian people to what they believe they must do, which was white supremacy, to stop certain things from happening or to make things work in their favor. When you watch this movie, if you watch it as a needy man or woman, how do you feel about it? Are you seeing Caucasian men and saying, I know he wants my wife. I got to be on the lookout. It seems like a cesspool for
corruption.
Yeah, it's like it's adding an emotional charge. It's adding an emotional charge on both sides. And if you're looking at it from a Caucasian point of view, you're going to say, this person is now going to be in charge of me. I don't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This person is going to injure my family. This person is going to put my, at the end of the day, they may harm my child or put my child in harm's way to save their own. It's just a lot of things that if you, when you watch the movie, if you've seen the movie, you're going to say from both sides certain things. I think that it promotes racism even more, especially at a time right now where people are wondering, is there going to be a financial collapse? Some people's grocery stores, the shelves are bare.
Right now. Mm-hmm.
You have these truckers that have gone on...
they went on strike, or the truckers are protesting in Canada.
And so that's stopping things from getting in. If it goes back to, the way that it was during, I don't want to say pandemic. Should I say that?
Yeah, I called it a damn gimmick. That's what I called
it. Damn gimmick. Yeah, if things go back to that, how are people going to react? Are they going to be at each other's throats? What are Niji going to do after seeing this movie? And what are Caucasian men and women going to do after seeing this movie? Or let's think about this. How does this movie affect our children if they see this movie?
True. And that's a very good question, because what would they think? Because children can only learn from their parents, or children can only learn from strangers, and they make up their own minds eventually. But the children can be manipulated and molded to feel that that's a threat, or to feel that that's great.
If you are a child and you saw this movie on either side, you would be afraid. It's not for us. It's a horror movie for the children.
I'm just here to make you think.